Hi, welcome to this Annette's Little Farm in the big city. Well, it's morning time. Time to get animals up. And we'll be getting them up. It's a little bit cool, as you can tell by what I'm wearing. The mornings have been cooler and things are changing a little bit here on the little farm. Just getting some things done around the little farm. Well, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. And first of all, before we even get started on anything else, I just want to say thank you. I've had so many new subscribers. I've had so many lovely comments. I have had a lot of likes. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for pressing the like button. It's so appreciated. You guys keep me motivated. You keep me doing what I'm doing, and I appreciate it so much. Number two, and this is kind of weird, but I was watching one of my videos because sometimes I do that. I'll go back and look at some of my older videos just to kind of critique and see what I could do better. And I noticed that they were playing ads on it. And I watched one video. It had 3 ads on it. I just want you to know I am not getting paid for those ads. So if you want to go ahead and skip those ads, that's fine with me. It's not going to affect me at all. I am not monetized at all here on YouTube. So if you want to go ahead and click through those ads, you have my blessing. I am sorry about that. I'm sorry that they're placing ads on my videos. I am not monetized and they shouldn't be doing that, but they are. So I'm sorry. Go ahead and click if you're watching those just to support me. All right. That's the second one. And then what I want to talk to you about today is, it's kind of weird to use this word, but I'm going to talk to you today about homesteading. Homesteading here in the city. I've had a few comments where people can't believe that I'm actually living in the middle of a big city. And I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about that, a little bit about how I am homesteading, but I never really consider it homesteading. I just consider it a lifestyle. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I've got to get the animals up first, and then we can have a chat, and hopefully not too much talking, but anyway, I always end up talking too much. I feel like it. Anyway, all right, let's get those animals up. Our video today is about homesteading in the city. Please check your local ordinances, check with your neighbors, check your HOA before purchasing that very first animal. It'll save you a lot of time and heartache if you do those things first. Let's talk about what a homesteader is. By definition, a homesteader is a person with a house surrounded by land that a family owns. But modern day homesteader is a little bit different. They use the term homesteader as somebody who becomes more self-sufficient, someone who's growing their own food and living on a parcel of land. And I never really thought about it. I've been doing this for 13 years, maybe even longer. When we moved into this house, one of the things that appealed to me the most about this house was the yard. We live now on a little less than a quarter of an acre, which is really spacious for a lot in the city. And my first step into my homesteading journey, I decided to get bees a few years after we lived here. So bees were my first thing, and I had bees for several years. After the bees, some time ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to have chickens. And Mr. Steve is a very handy person, and he can build almost anything. So I had him build me a chicken coop, and I had chickens for a while. After I had the chickens, I decided I wanted milk goats, and I got goats. And then after the goats, I got the ducks. So it was kind of a progression. I didn't just go all in right away. It kind of led itself, one thing led to another. Now, what led me onto this journey is that I've always been an outdoorsy kind of person. I've always liked being outdoors and doing outdoor things, landscaping, and taking care of animals. So it was a natural progression for me to progress into where I am right now. So I wasn't really aiming to become a homesteader. I was just doing something that came naturally to me. It didn't naturally occur to me that I wanted to be a homesteader. I just had things that I wanted to do, and I started doing those things, and evidently it led me to being a homesteader. You can start your homestead with a couple of chickens and a tomato plant. It doesn't matter. You can be as small or as big as you want. Now, we are not completely self-sufficient here on the little farm, and that's fine. But if we wanted to be, we could, because we have built our skill set. Year after year, we keep getting more knowledgeable and learning more and finding out more. So if we had to be self-sufficient, we could be, but we choose not to be. When it comes to having animals on your homestead in the city, you need to make sure that you have room. Now, the amount of animals you have should coincide with how much room you have. I personally cannot fit one other animal on this homestead. I have maxed out my space to make sure that everybody has a comfortable and good life here on my farm. If you have a smaller space, you might want to consider not having as many animals as I have. You have to consider your space, because not only am I caring for my animals and letting my animals have the space in the yard, I also have to have a space for them to live and keep shelter. I also have to have a space for their supplies. One of the things to think about when you're considering starting a homestead is the expense. All of these animals cost money, and unless you're really well connected and you can find some animals for free, the initial investment in paying for these animals is pretty big if you want to go all in. Also, their feed costs money, their care costs money, and then building adequate shelter for them, that costs money. It all costs. Not only do you need to go to space and go to space for their food, space for them, but animals poop. And you have to have a way to mitigate that, a way to figure out what are you going to do with all that poop. We compost here on the little farm, but still, sometimes if you're not composting and taking care of that, it can get the best of you. And you really need to think about that when you're thinking about getting animals here, I have been asked to take in animals that have no home because people jump into it and they decide, I'm going to try it, and realize this life is not for them. Stop for a second here and just talk about that. Because taking the responsibility of animals into your homestead and finding out that doesn't work, and I understand, I try to be as understanding as I can, but I want you to make sure when you are considering animals that you do your research, that you talk to other homesteaders, that you watch other homesteaders' videos and see how they're doing it. Do a lot of research. Research your animals, making sure that they're the right kind of animals for your climate, the right kind of animals for what kind of produce you want to have, or product that you want from these animals. Do your research, please. Another thing that you need to consider when you decide to have a homestead is time. How much time do you have to spare? How much time does it take to not only take care of your animals on your homestead, but if you have a garden like I do, it takes time to plant the garden, it takes time to take care of the garden, and it takes time to process everything that you get from the garden. If you need time off, what are you going to do? Who's going to care for your animals? Well, if you live out in the country, you could call your neighbor and say, hey, can you come over and feed the cows? Well, okay, I'm out feeding the cows anyway. Or I'm out milking the cows anyway. I'll just hop over and do that for you. Well, here in the city, not only do you need to rely on someone to care for your animals when you decide you want to go on vacation, but there's specifically have to take care of these animals in a certain way. It's not like taking the dog for a walk. You know what I mean? You have to have those skills. So not only do you have to rely on a select group of friends to come take care of your animals, you also have to train them how to take care of your animals as well. So, getting time away from the farm is very difficult unless you have a really good support system. One of the drawbacks of having a homestead in the city is that it's so hard to get supplies. Unless I'm ordering things on the internet, or we have to make a long drive to our nearest Tractor Supply, which is about 45 minutes away. And that's unfortunate. I mean, if you're living in the city, the things that you need aren't going to be just, let's go down to the store and pick it up. In rural communities, that's the case. But in an urban community, trying to get your supplies, you kind of have to travel a little bit. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter. Rain, snow, sleet, whatever. Weather is hard on you. It's hard on animals. And you have to make sure that you are able to get down to that barn and take care of your animals. Because they cannot get the water for themselves. They cannot get the food for themselves. You are responsible for those animals, and regardless of the weather, that's what you've got to do. When you're in an urban area, you're not going to find a vet just down the street that's going to be taking care of your chicken or your goats or your sheep or your rabbit or any kind of other farm animal that you have on your homestead. You're going to have to travel. One of the things that a lot of people don't think of when they're thinking about homesteading is pests. Pests like rats and mice and flies and things like that. And when you have a homestead, this is things, it's just a fact of life. And you have to figure out either you're going to live with them or you're going to have to figure out how to combat them. And that's just part of it. During World War I and World War II, people were growing what they called a victory garden in their backyard. The victory garden was just a plain vegetable patch that everybody had, and as a matter of fact, it was quite unusual for the people not to have a victory garden in their backyard to help with the war effort. It helped during food shortages, and people really found that gardening helped with morale. Not only were they using victory gardens, but they were also raising meat rabbits. A lot of people say that the meat rabbit was what helped win the World War. Just the word homestead sounds earthy and sounds like you're reconnecting. And that's one of the main reasons that I've been doing this, is that reconnection that I really wanted to feel. Now, like I said before, we are not completely self-sufficient. And it really is up to you to determine how far you want to take your homestead. You can either have one chicken, one tomato plant, and that would be fine. That would be fine. I think it is really important for us to reconnect to our food. I think it's really important that we start growing our own food. I look back on my life here on the little farm and how far I've come from starting with that first beehive and sharing it with all the school children that I used to teach. And now I'm sharing it with the whole community and with you. And if you've gotten this far, I want to thank you very much for watching the video this far. But I have just a few things that I wish I would have done differently, and not a whole lot. I wish I would have bred my goats and milked them, but it's kind of late for that now because they're a little bit older. And I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have been on this journey, on this path, so much sooner than what I have. But I'm glad I finally got there. I think that the future, as I continue to build my skill set and I continue to learn more about animals and how this all works, I think that is very exciting to me. The future is very exciting to me, at my age even. And I really think that if you are considering doing something like this, that you can. You can do it. And you can do it your way, what suits you, what fits you, how it works for you. Just like I did, or just like I do. I may not always do it like the experts say to do it, but I do it the way suits me, the way that fits me. And I think that's how you should do it too. Thank you. Thank you so much for visiting me here on Miss Annette's little farm in the big city. Try to get outside today if you can. Take care of yourself. And take care of each other. And we'll see you next time. Bye! Love you.